Welcome to part 6 of this Wellington mini-series. Things to look out for this time around include a DC returning to Auckland, a second DX in Thorndon Yard, and the unique Dutch E-bells at a pedestrian crossing in Kandala. It was quite an early start for me, as I wanted to get train 234 passing Takapū Road. In the past I've filmed this service plenty of times, but never this far south. What I wasn't expecting this time was to see DC 4605 along for the ride. For reference, this DC had spent a sizable amount of time running in the lower North Island, including a few works trains with DXC 5391. 4605 has since returned to a usual stomping ground in Auckland. As you might expect at this point, I didn't go into Wellington until after 9 o'clock, and during that time I filmed some of Metlink's morning peak services, as well as double-headed DLs on train 221 and a DFB 7307 on train 1203. At 9:16, along came Matangi units 5246 and 4161 on the 825 ex-Waikanai service. I got on 4161 for this short-ish ride back to Wellington. As the train approached Wellington Station, I noticed that a second DX locomotive had arrived overnight. This was DXB 5120, and we'll see more of her in the next video. As for why she was brought up from the South Island, apparently she needed an oil filter repair, but by the looks of things I'd say she needs a repaint as well. I also caught DFB 7064 again. Upon arrival at the station, I noticed that DFB 7010 was still in platform 8 with the empty coaches from train 1605, the 647 Masterton to Wellington service. As I still had some time to kill before catching up with another mate, I decided to get on Matangi 4610 for a ride to Mana and back. You'll see why I said and back later on. It's a good thing these stations all have shelters, as the rain wasn't letting up and I didn't have an umbrella. Besides the usual EMUs, I also caught 262 to Palmerston North, though this turned out to just be DL 9066 running light engine. Not long after, DFB 7307 came speeding by with test train B69. Eventually it was time to head back to Wellington, and coincidentally I ended up on Matangi 4610 again. After my third and final trip on that little red funicular, I made it back to the station in time to catch the 1432 to Johnsonville. As Matangi 5183 went past the yard, I noticed that DXC 5391 appeared to have been fitted with ferry hooks. I didn't realise this at the time, but it wasn't long before the third EFI upgraded DX went back to her old stomping ground on the Inter-Islander ferry. Upon arrival back in Johnsonville, I couldn't help but notice this rather strange and, dare I say, moody weather. I couldn't tell if it was rain or some weird mist, but either way it's not what I'm used to. After about 25 minutes at Johnsonville, another pair of EMUs showed up to run the 3:30 service back to Wellington, on which I would be a passenger as far as Kandala. Kandala is notable for being one of two stations on this line to feature a crossing loop, but the reason I got off here was actually to see this rather unique pedestrian crossing. At this point in the afternoon, Johnsonville services were running every 15 minutes, and after about an hour in Kandala, I got on Matangi 5160 for the return trip to Wellington. As the train arrived back in the city, I noticed that DXB 5120 had been turned around in preparation for her upcoming trip to Hut Workshops.
Next station, Wellington. If you're using Snapper, please make sure to tag off on the platform card readers.
I made it back to the station in time to film DFBs 7160 and 7010, which were hauling train 1206 to Palmerston North and 1608 to Masterton respectively. Notably, the Capital Connection had a different generator van in the consist, as the normal AG 130 was out of action due to a generator fault. As dumb as this may sound, DFB 7160 is quite a special locomotive to me. She used to be a common sight in Tauranga, and I swear I remember seeing her in the yard when I got to drive DXR 8022, and no, that is not a joke. As an aside, about 11 years ago there were 2 occasions where I got to drive full-size diesels in Mount Maunganui. Those locomotives were DXR 8022 and DFT 7077. Going back to 7160, I also remember seeing her very soon after she got repainted in KiwiRail colours, and on many other occasions besides. Most notably, she was on the Northern Explorer on the same day JB 1236 visited Taihape. And then there was the time in October 2021 when I saw 7160 helping classmate 7186 on the log trains between Napier and Wairoa.
The next Melling line service to Melling, stopping at all stations, is due to depart from platform 3. Please board now for this service. The next Kapiti Line service to Waikanai, express to Porirua, is due to depart from platform 9. Please board now for this service. The next Kapiti Line service to Waikanai, express to
After getting a basic dinner, I hopped on Matangi 4495 to get back to Takapū Road. This was the 601 Wellington to Porirua service, pretty much right at the tail end of the evening peak. To end the day's railfanning, I filmed another trio of KiwiRail freight services, starting with DL 9360 on train 220 to Auckland. This was followed by DLs 9233 and 9607 with the ex-Castlecliff train 565, and last but not least, DL 9302 and DFB 7158 on train 268 to Palmerston North.